coming over to party at our house on Sunday. And then Monday, I take all my Christmas shit down and tell people to get the hell out of here because Christmas is over.
Yep, I'm the same way.
So it's going to be 3 days of drinking, lots and lots of drinking.
So much drinking.
Ridiculous amounts of drinking, followed by good times. So, what's up, D?
Not much, man.
Diddle DD.
The DD. Hey, man, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. I had a good one, too.
Good, I'm happy to hear that.
Stuff.
Yeah, anytime I get brownies, I'll definitely consider that to be a bonus.
A boner.
Or that.
Yeah, you got brownies and a lasagna, and then you got the books. So many books.
Yeah, like over 40 books.
Books are good.
How come your audio is so crap, Ken?
You didn't say anything, Mr. Man.
Who?
I didn't notice anything.
I'm also wearing really good headphones, so...
I'm wearing earbuds, so...
Is that better?
Oh, God. Milky, creamy smooth.
It's probably coming out of my my camera. It was the default was set to that. Actually reminds me, I need to change that.
Oh, dude, 3 slimes just showed up. I'm gonna kick their ass. Oh, yeah, you take them out, Newmore. Who the hell names a character Newmore? He's Numo.
I haven't a clue. Let's adjust this just a hair.
Oh, say.
You know, you play the game long enough when you can be talking to people, looking at other stuff, and you're just moving the controller around, and you end up where you need to be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to take out a big slug.
Man alive. Well, I think we've only got... Oh, well, there's Bill. One more left.
Yep.
Gonna be going over a lot of stuff just in the human side of things. It's gonna be interesting. Certain throwbacks. Look at the size of this freaking thing, dude. This is nonsense to me. Yeah, the Iron Banana shirt. Oh, I can't hear you, dude. What's up? Nothing. What changed? Creamy, smooth, authentic audio. Then mything. You're all on mute. It's gonna be a good hand trainer. This thing weighs like 3 to 4 pounds. And it's literally impossible to determine what the hell number it's rolling. Yeah, let's go to... Alright, looks like Scott will be here shortly. Looks like Ken's having technical issues. I don't know, Drew. Did you know about this?
Know about what?
This stuff that they were sending me for the gift exchange or whatever. Because he ended up getting me like this, the shirt that I have on now, and this book, Snow Crash.
I know nothing. I am
Yeah.
ignorant of these things.
I do know that this sucker right here, like I was telling Scott earlier, all you do is you throw this sucker into a tube sock and you have one hell of a home defense weapon. just like that, and you can whirl that sucker around. It'll crash right through drywall and all kinds of stuff. It's ridiculous.
Nice.
That might be what it's good for.
All I know is a certain member of our group had his wife bake me cookies, and they arrived the other day, and they were delicious. And I finished them in probably 20 minutes.
I still have some. I'm snacking on them as I go along. I had to separate them into different like plastic containers so that I could only eat so much at a time.
It's bad. My sister made me a double batch of cookies, and my wife tried to hide them from me, and she failed. I found them. I eat like a handful at a time.
I just get this image of you like on the floor sniffing around, finding the trail.
Yeah. She hid the fudge in the freezer too. I found that.
Just regular fudge, or was it different flavors?
I don't know. My mom made fudge.
That peanut butter fudge was always my vice.
Oh no, I like just straight up original.
How's it going, Bill? You happy the whole thing's over and done with?
Hello? There it
Hello.
is.
Yeah, we got you.
Yep. Long ass week.
Yeah, so he was just advertising his shirt right there. I don't know if you saw it, Bill, or if he showed it to you.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. And then this was the one that Scott got me, of course, because, you know, who doesn't?
You guys are crazy.
The Dungeon Daddy.
Who's your daddy?
Perfect! Tis perfect!
Daddy.
I walked all the way down here. I don't have the key for this? What the hell?
The fuck? Bill, are you glad to be off for a few extra days?
Yeah.
I appreciate that Hawksoft decided to give everyone, make sure that you have 2 days off for Christmas.
I'm just glad we got one. It landed on a weekend, and I was thinking, yeah, that's not going to happen. Nobody's going to give us a break.
Right.
So I was expecting to work, and then I caught it yesterday. That Friday we didn't work. And I was like, oh, shit! Yes!
Oh, shit!
Hey, it's always nice not having to work.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, getting paid to not work is even better.
Right? Well, that's what
Paid
this is.
holidays.
If this project works out, man, that's exactly what my life will be. I'll get paid, and I won't have to work a day in my life. At the same time, we'll get to enjoy the fact that other people are playing a game that I made. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, when you saw Scott is getting hit up by people wondering what's going on.
That was
What's
out
the
of this
deets?
world, man. I could, seriously.
Did you get any more people joining it or not? Anything?
Not yet, but at the same time, I don't expect much. It's kind of dull walking into it. I just kind of announce when we're going to be streaming, and then I throw random stuff in there from time to time. But there's not like a lot of conversation going on, which I hope will change eventually, but I think it's just a matter of time.
Indeed.
Get folks in there, get them interested.
Again.
Everybody needs to play Shadows! Because I made it! No. Yeah, I don't know. Who's been following along with the OneNote changes, if any at all?
I haven't really been on my computer I've been sitting on the couch all day playing games, so I will open up OneNote now and see all the beautiful changes.
Yeah, I can even do so much as, what was it? I was going to
The
say
danger room.
Right. I'm glad you finally noticed that. That's what I'm calling my area where I'm just like throwing in random crap. It's where I experiment. So, out of curiosity, random ask. Let's see here. Ooh. I got these cool spinner dice. They're freaking neat, dude. These coin dice are amazing. You just spin it, and if you can see, I don't know if you can, it'll focus in on it or not, but you can see how the numbers are like right there on the rim. You spin it because it's got a little ball that keeps it, elevated from the table. You spin it and then you put your finger on the edge to stop its motion. The number immediately visible to the left of your finger from where you stop it, that's the result. It's pretty cool. And this is actually a good way to have super tight rolling spaces. You can just spin it in a single space and like that, and it doesn't have to roll around everywhere.
Spin it to win it.
Yep. It's really awesome. Got two of them. There's one with Anubis. There's one with the Phoenix on it, and then there's going to be one coming in with a dragon. So that'll be my D10. I'll have a D10 version of that. Then I'll have my super secret elite dice. These things they're not made anywhere else anymore. I went checking. They had exalted brand dice that no longer get made. So Bill, if I told you I reworked humans in terms of their archetype in general, what do you think maybe?
Holy crap, you did a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I'm just curious.
A tip.
I was curious about expectations to some degree. What do you guys think that maybe I may have added in there for the human side of it? Because originally that was probably the most drab of all of the original archetypes. It was kind of human, yay. But
yay.
Well, I mean, it's the professional tables that just kind of helps people figure it out.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what I would have in my head, not necessarily.
If any one of us were to make a character, we would do exactly that anyway. It's okay, well, what do they do? Okay, what do the stats have to be?
Right.
So this I actually like. So I like having at least a frame of reference. And then having that kind of build into the Go Cyborg if you want.
Yeah. Oops. Why is it picking the wrong one? I'm doing the same thing from the last time. I need it to be.
Oh no.
Oh, that's why those displays change all the time for some reason. Over here, and we be boop. Check it out. All right. All right. So this week for sure, what I have been cranking on is pretty much all of this within the professional table, etc.
Been cranking that hog.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. I'm still working on getting loadouts and things like that set up for easy pickings, but have we got any professions that stand out to anybody? I know one of the ones that I was having fun messing with.
What are? Oh, never mind.
Still curious what the question was.
I just needed to read for half a second longer. That's all. The tweaks are interesting.
Yeah. Well, this is just kind of my own brain work is what that is. It's how can I make it interesting for each one? How do I tweak the experience, literally?
Well, and the thing is, what I like about this as well is think about having these baseline abilities, and then when you add on an archetype, got bit by the vampire.
Right.
So you still have these kind of intrinsic tweaks, who this person was, right?
Yep.
And then just layer the vampire onto it, or the other archetypes.
Yep. And that is something that I considered very heavily whenever I was going through it. And I thought that would be kind of cool. It would actually prove in some way that starting at Heroic actually isn't as powerful as starting at Street level. Because eventually you miss out on all of that foundational baseline stuff. So if you want an end game character that is of high quality and high power, by the time it's all over and done with, you start at Street level. Because if you start at mid-grade or Heroic or higher, yeah, you get that initial boost at the start, but you're missing all that stuff from behind. So
all the juicy stuff.
Yeah, so you'll basically just have a slightly less potent edge than you would get if you started out at the street level. Plus, I'm making some of these tweaks, and I think I'll probably make all of the tweaks eventually. Gotta make that the right color.
The tweaks almost feel like advantages, like the as far as what they are doing for your character.
Right, but they're a lot more. They do fit within the advantage point, but again, it's the how do I make them specific, and it's profession only. So instead of being related to just optimized and picking at random, I've got this character concept, I want to go blah 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 blah. The tweaks are literally a specific professional bonus, more or less. They help the character sort of become exceptional in some way, and it mostly focuses on skills. Except for in the case of the True Warrior with their power style. That's the only semi-mystical, quasi-magical element involved. And I wanted to keep it that way because I was I wanted humans to represent the skill-based type of powerhouses where they were skills and weapons and critical thinking and all that other stuff. This should epitomize that, making them and it also helps to explain how can a human contend with anything supernatural? Well, if they have the right skill set, the right set of charms, and the right kind of head on their shoulders, they'll be able to contend with any supernatural being as long as they know what they're doing. And it's a matter of knowledge and practice and experience as opposed to just straight up, here's your gift of powers, flump, and
here's your card.
Yep, and off you go. Run around and run play. This is... And to me, that's what makes the human race in general in any system really more alluring, even if they're boring. It's I'm starting out as basically tabula rasa or just blank and walking in and somehow becoming something more interesting than what was expected. Because that's the thing about a vampire is that it doesn't get to go anywhere else. Same thing with a werewolf. It gets to exemplify what it is based on what it's been transformed into. But it doesn't have the malleability that you get whenever you're just playing straight up human, cyborg, etc. So because you can fluctuate in all kinds of places.
I like the idea. I mean, it definitely the tweaks or professions, I guess, is what makes them distinct from your other archetypes, which is good. It's good.
Well, and this is basically the human powers list. It's always been about the advantages and skills when it comes to humans in general, and then it comes to technology. So you take those three things together, and the whole archetype kind of meshes together as humans can accomplish these kinds of things under these circumstances. They use cybernetics as their baseline technology, and then they have their expert skills that help them navigate the world that's dangerous, that's just below the surface for standard stuff. And hell, this right here, this baseline, is completely doable with just straight up shadows as if it were only Cyberpunk. You could run a game that never encounters anything supernatural and use all of this, and wham, off you go.
Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, and then of course the cybernetics listings. I finally managed to flesh that out because I was adding in the various elements for the different cybernetic abilities and cybernetic enhancements, etc., 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 etc.
Ad nauseum.
Yeah, it just goes on.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah. Did some price hikes and stuff like that. I'm really curious to hear what you guys have to say. If there's critiques, thoughts, any kind of
There's a lot here.
Yes.
I wish you'd pointed out this exact thing, because I know we're going to be talking about it, but just reminding me is hey, by the way, I added 2 weeks worth of stuff here.
I think I stopped because I think I'm getting kind of annoying whenever I'm doing that. I'm hey, by the way, I've changed all this stuff. You need to look at it now.
Look at it.
Well, and like I said, I'm almost finished with it. I just got to get through the loadouts because that's about the only gap right now. I was hammering through some of that, plus the tweaks in the loadouts.
You do realize that is a beautiful thing to say. If you're getting to a point where you feel that this is reaching the level of finished for the different sections, you're getting yourself to oh sweet Jesus, I just loaded it.
Yeah, that was my reaction too. You keep scrolling and it's oh, there can't be this much, and you just keep scrolling.
Yeah, Ah, there he is.
Get the Scott.
Yeah, the major
Oh my
thing-
god, this is beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot, right?
Yeah, but it should be.
Mhm.
You ever read any gaming manual, it's like you're reading the damn Bible.
Might piss some people off, but I hope my stuff's more interesting.
My wife's light is framing my head. It's kind of funny.
Yep.
That is the joy of the cookies that your wife brought to my
Those
world.
cookies are so delicious.
Yeah, I've got one sitting right next to me, and it's talking to me.
What cookies? The box was empty.
We
Yeah.
sat down for lunch. I heard a ring on my doorbell. I opened it. There was a box sitting there. I knew.
Yeah, this is what I have saved for myself. The crumbles are going to be for what I put on my ice cream later, and then the whole cookies for this sometime this evening. When I feel like I've earned it. I need...
They taste really good dipped in coffee.
Yeah, I'd imagine
Everything
so.
Kim
is-
doesn't make her own biscotti, does she?
No, she doesn't.
Well, and I have to...
Oh.
I can't do mine in coffee per se because I have to carry an adult sippy cup. I spill everywhere all the time, so literally I have to have non-leak. So I carry my sippy with me everywhere.
So,
Yes,
speaking
sippy
of random things we carry around, my wife made me clean out under the house today. And we found this box, and I'm like, I have no idea what the hell's in this box. My wife opens it up, and she starts laughing. She goes, "This is all your stuff." And I found in there the album of all the wedding photos from Scott's wedding. And I pulled a picture of Jordan, and I go, "Honey, look, it's Bill." And she goes, "No, it's not." I go, "It's him. Look,
It's
there he
Bill.
is. It's Bill." It was great.
I'll be back.
All right.
The good time.
Not Carl.
Not Carl. How is Carl doing?
He's doing really well. He's out in Ohio. He's got like a George Costanza job with the Ohio minor league team.
So he sleeps under his desk all the time.
Pretty much, he's like the whatever, like in the corporate office.
Nice. And I take it he's not coming to Christmas dinner.
No.
So Carl.
My sister's back in Michigan right now.
Oh, for Sean's family.
Yep. I know.
So
Hey,
you
we're
guys-
supposed to get snow here next week.
We're going to get snow on Saturday, which is unusual for Western Oregon. That is super weird.
We're getting rain here in the Bay Area. It's super weird too.
Yeah, yeah. I say we're being pounded with rain, but I was looking at the weather on my phone, and it was like 40% chance of snow on Wednesday. I was like, what?
Yeah, we're going to be up in Arnold for New Year's. So,
It's very snowy there right now.
yeah, we're going up into Dorrington, which is
Yep.
a little farther
A
up
little
the
bit
mountain.
past Arnold, yeah.
Yeah. So I will be out next week because we're leaving on Tuesday and we're not coming back till Sunday.
All good. It is December World Building. Somehow or another, we're going to get like 5 installments of this. So yeah. What was it, Drew, that you were talking to? Yeah. So we were just going over the changes so far. I know, Scott, you were talking about the fact that you were saying it adds texture and such like that for what we've got going on.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I felt like there was a lot more going on with it. Is there anything that pops out to anybody? Because I figure that we can just, I don't know, breeze over it, I suppose. There might be too much to try and, like, slam cover in the middle of it. There's a lot.
Well, we can do an overarching like summarization of the archetypes, right?
Yeah,
Like,
see,
looks like with humans, we're all about variability. All of their abilities are very all over the place.
Well, because these are the people who make up the at least public-facing society, right?
I'm not
Night
I'm not
City.
saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that's
No,
the flip
like
side.
it, like Night City, like it could be that the security guard happens to be a werewolf, but it's much more likely that it's a human who, you know, flunked out of night school and got a job working security. Like,
What was
Yeah,
that
so-
comic,
Hmm?
Bill, or that TV show where it was like old nursery rhymes, but like they lived in like a
Oh,
gritty
Grimm?
ass city? Yeah,
what was it?
that was it.
well, Grimm was a show on NBC where there was a cop who was like a descendant of the brothers Grimm, and he could see the Volga. So he could see all of the, like, basically creatures from children's stories from old German history.
I
Interesting.
see two things I had a question about
Sure,
the-
throw them at me.
on humans. I see you put in a section about Dark Slayers, but it
It's
sounds
not complete
like a lore
yet.
thing.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not complete yet. That will be another
mind
thing.
then.
So that's taking place. That's a good thing to ask about, though. So Darkslayers is the watered down version in Shadows that will eventually take in as hunters of the supernatural in specific. Because again, stepping away from White Wolf, it can't be Hunter because that's too close to Hunter the Reckoning. But it will be what I've already messed with in terms of the post-apocalyptic storyline for Night City. So Darkslayers will actually have an emergence inside of Night City before before the fall. As an anticipation of the possibility. So they'll be the ones that do like hunting of the supernatural and so forth, the ones that cause serious havoc.
Where's Bill's thing on werewolves?
It's there.
Did you-
It's under the
Did you
werewolf
add
thing.
something? No, it's not.
Yes, it
Under
is.
notes.
Yep.
Under what?
Notes. I put all of his stuff in notes because I need to move that aside so I can write up the actual, like the archetype
Oh.
itself.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait. Okay.
I'm sorry, dog. Don't get mad at me. I didn't know you were in my
So-
chair.
I know cyborgs are modified humans,
Mm-hmm.
but considering how you've made humans with the tweaks and stuff, are cyborgs just going to be humans with more stuff on top of them, or are they their own archetype?
Well, cyborgs are human. They're
Well-
they're just another tweak on the tweak.
That's so okay. The answer to my question was the first thing I said, which is you've got your tweaks for being a human, and then you add on stuff by being a cyborg.
Yeah. You can choose to be full-blown no cybernetics. Because if you take cyber allergy, for instance, you can stick completely with the human base archetype and really pile drive into your skills and so on. But if you take the disadvantage, obviously you're not going to be grabbing any kind of like cyber arms or any of that other stuff.
Right.
But,
Okay.
yeah.
And then you do a whole section about spending cash, which is cool. You got your augmentations, which is for your cyborgs.
Yep.
Battle chems, which is just human augmentation.
It's just
Limbs
it's
is for cyborgs.
Yep, it's the battle chems is for like getting the like adrenochrome pushed in for like that shorthand boost.
I'm thinking of Bane.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's what I thought of too.
We're going shiny and chrome.
Shiny.
I love it whenever they
Awesome.
fail. He just goes mediocre.
Yeah.
So, obviously you put the most work in here, but just as a quick like summary, and I'll type it in here. What's an arcanist?
Arcanist is the they're the wizard, the mystic. They kind of fit into all, but they use magic.
It's anyone that deals in the arcane, I presume.
Right, but they can use ether to change the world around them.
Now, do we? I guess you would have in the sense also. There's beings that the magic in the arcane is just. It's like breathing for them. It's just who they are. it's not like they're doing enchanted stuff. It's just like, it is what I do.
Closest representation of that would be the Fae.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But this is someone who just learned magic.
Yeah, it becomes a cross. It's the, for lack of better terminology, it's the human reference of magic, because guess what? You learn it kind of like a skill. You have to build it up, and your discipline increases, and you end up learning to employ more and more sophisticated magical work, as opposed to having it be an innate, ability that you're born with.
Okay. So
Which pronunciation do you prefer?
Arcanist, I think. Arcanist. I don't know. Either way sounds fine to me. It's really hard for me to figure
Did
it
you
out.
see what I put in the note?
yeah. Well, so an arcanist or arcanist, whatever you want to say, can be, when you think archetype, I thought that like looking at the other archetypes like vampires, werewolves, Nephilim, dreamlings, demons, angels, they all sound like different species. But an arcanist or arcanist sounds like a profession, like something that someone learns.
Like you got yourself an arcanist degree.
Yes.
Well, so the intuitive element here is that an arcanist comes with, it's not going to be something that's special. It's not a special thing. It is a matter of like serious devotion. That's the reason why humans and the human cyborg, they get all that modified stuff up, and they get mechanically a whole bunch of like stuff dumped into what they're basically focusing on. Now, when it comes to werewolves and vampires, those are special points, but that's not what an archetype is. An archetype is, what sort of concept are you playing as? Period. Are you playing as somebody who's just strictly a magic user and that's what their primary focus is? If they're strictly like just a big time magic user, arcanist, there you go. You know what I mean? If you're wanting to play something that's supernatural like a werewolf, well, it's there. Same thing with vampire. There. Demon angel, same thing.
So you wouldn't be locked into. So I guess this is a different question then. What species are available? Because I would think that if you chose Wolfman, that you would probably be locked into werewolf. But could you be a Wolfman that is an arcanist,
Yep.
or could you be a?
Yes,
you be
some crossover, some do not. Because obviously you
You know
can't
what's
be
crazy?
you can't be a werewolf cyborg. That doesn't work.
Yeah, but I could see you like, hey, I was once dealing in the arcane, and while taking up shady arcane things, I got bit, and now I'm a werewolf.
Right. That's basically how it could happen. Just because you're an arcanist does not make you immune to becoming a werewolf. It's like I said, some of it crosses over, some of it doesn't, but it's a matter of natural order. It's a crossover of natural order, period. You could still start out as human cyborg. Yeah, you could start out as human cyborg, be bit by a vampy, regrow your arm, your leg, whatever, push out all those implants, and suddenly you're a vampire with all those human traits still built in. Same thing if you had the conversion from human cyborg to werewolf. Same principle applies. If you get turned by a dead man, if you get turned by one of those, again, same rule applies. It's all possible. The idea is that there's not really a ceiling. It's just a soft cap and how you climb the steps.
So this is a question then. What species are available for your you to create then?
I don't really think I understand the question. It's not really quite like that. It's like
So you
want
can create any species you want.
Yeah.
Like I'm
that's-
gonna be a half fish.
Yeah, if you
Angel.
want to go off of
Half-fish
lore,
angel.
like if you're going to end up doing something that's like, I want to be some kind of aquatic magical creature, and somebody's like, if their DM is smart or GM is smart, they'll be like, okay, cool, you're a Selkie trapped in Night City. Wham, there's already something there, and that fits into the Fae. If you're trying to come up with something custom, then you go with the custom archetype, and you just develop it based on what you think the principle should be. That's the premise. Because
The reason I'm
Yeah.
asking the questions is I'm trying to wrap my head around like what. So I was going to go down the list of each of the archetypes just to get a quick overview, and it sounded like the archetype of the arcanist was a profession that you choose, versus almost every other one of them sounds like something that's intrinsic to a specific species of person thing, And you've explained it already, but that's why I asked that question.
Yeah.
So you're good.
I mean, from a balance perspective, it would be like if anybody can, I don't know, if someone can be everything, that would be really a difficult player to, play with. And
You only choose one archetype to start with, right?
Yeah. You
Okay.
can try and blend them across. Like you could say, I want to be human cyborg, but I want to throw a little bit of Arcanist. The thing about that is that if you try to do that, you more or less have to, I think I wrote it down somewhere in my synergy system, but I was like, you basically buy the other archetype. You say, here's your central focus, because this is your primary archetype. This is what you're starting with, right? And they're like, okay, I want to get a little bit of this then. And whenever I start off, it's like, depends on the GM, first of all. They have to be like, well, that doesn't really fit the balance, so they'll probably say, not right now. If you want to have Arcanist as something later, then we can build up to it, and you can literally in-game roleplay out becoming one after you're already a human cyborg or a werewolf or whatever. And that's the thing, is that you start off with just one, and if you try to cross-blend something over, you have to basically spend an exorbitant number of freebie points in order to buy that other archetype to merge it together, if that's what you're really wanting to do. It's basically a paywall for those who want to try and min-max their characters at start. But again...
Okay, so let me see if I got this straight. Barrick, after reading his Idiot's Guide to Using Magic, wants to start to developing his Arcana abilities to, like, supercharge his own damn bullets. He can do that?
Yes.
I mean, I kind of have a little bit.
Yep, with his
Yeah, you
arcane
have.
capacitor. Yep. That's been sort of an innate power or ability, but because of his investigation into the arcane, he's been slowly building up what he more or less arcane circuitry, so that it funnels all of that, like the ether that's in the surrounding area, and funnels it into a highly concentrated burst.
I feel like we should get Barrick a flux capacitor. I don't know. It's just me.
But
so
yeah,
it sounds like for the custom mechanics that most people would probably choose like human or arcanist to start with. I guess. Well, obviously, the arcanist hasn't been filled in, but magic-y, like I practice magic. It sounds like a pretty good kind of wide open thing.
yeah.
So let's talk about vampires. Give me the elevator pitch of a vampire.
You're talking about a classical monster, undead, usually beautiful, preys on people, suffers from sunlight, has a tendency to be the
They
manipulative.
preys on sunlight.
No, preys on people.
Suffers from sunlight.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I wasn't crazy. I heard him say preys on sunlight, right?
I mean, you may have heard it.
Okay, I'm just crazy.
Has a blood pool.
Yep, they use a blood pool to figure all that stuff out. I am contemplating the possibility that I may just have it just be all SFR. Like, you get blood and it converts to SFR. Like, that's basically what happens. I might just leave it as SFR for all of that instead of, like, differentiating. But you can basically say if you drink blood, you regain SFR because of it, right?
I like that.
I've been trying to figure it out because I want to step away from, like, the multiple blood pools. It gets weird. Or the multiple pools. I'm like, SFR is, generally speaking, wonderfully broad. It just means that it's spiritual energy of something that usually comes from other living forces or entities or from the outside environment, or you generate it by my meditation rest something else, but it's a spiritual force rating, and it's like, it's broad enough. You could literally explain that from anything, which is exactly what it's good for.
Okay, that seems pretty straightforward.
Yep.
How about werewolves? Maybe I should ask Bill this question.
Well, they're hyper strong, hyper fast, protectors of humanity.
Oh, they're protectors of humanity?
Yes.
Okay, explain that one, Bill.
Yeah, he was the one who shoveled it in, so take it away, Bill.
So it took it from a lore perspective that's exactly what they were, essentially.
14,000 years ago, Enki showed up.
I mean, he's not wrong. So, long story short, it's basically they've been, since Eden, have been protecting humanity. Or protecting the spirits. Either or. Doesn't really matter.
Are they like the stewards of Earth?
Yeah, it's the don't disrupt the balance kind of thing. It's the if a spirit goes out of control, it's not for humanity's sake that the werewolf will take it down. And if someone on humanity's side does something that they shouldn't, then they get taken down. It's not for spirit sides because of the balance.
So,
not-
so in a
not for
sense, you have.
anything Yeah.
Are you allowing for that sort of almost in a sense the alignment that most werewolves start as this protectorate, but occasionally you could have a few that are like, screw you, I'm going my own way.
Yes. Glad you asked. There's one tribe that's like that, and then there are 3 other tribes that have tendencies. So they still work. They still work with humanity, but they're the no. We are vastly superior to you. So
So you look down their snouts at us.
Yeah, I broke it
Snouts.
down into. If you take a look at the notes, archetype notes, you go down to it and you look on the right-hand side, you'll see what I've written on the different houses. So I broke it down into different houses for the tribes. So that kind of gives you the
Oh, God.
dynamic of what's going on.
Cool.
Spirit
that is-
Force.
So besides the besides all of the awesome lore that you put together there, we'll have to figure out like why someone would pick a werewolf to start with over other things, because it sounds like there's definitely some baggage if you choose one of those because of the balance you have to keep.
Well, it's
yeah,
not.
but
It's,
Does it take away from the game if we're telling people like, here's why you'd pick a werewolf, or here's why I did that, as opposed to just someone feels like I want to play a werewolf?
well, so the thing about that is that we're not going to tell somebody how they're going to play their werewolf or their vampire. It's all individual. It's all based on that. There's nothing like alignments to have to worry about. You play the character based on what you see them to be. And the thing about that is that if you are in opposition, it's kind of like originally whenever playing in Shadows, if you were playing a mage, you would have to deal with the technocracy because they didn't like you fucking around with vulgar magic. So, like, yeah, there's consequences, but it's more interesting if you go against the grain. It just gives the GM a lot more ammunition to fuck around. And every single one of those has that exact context attached to it. It's like, you make it more interesting if you play against the rules, and you still make it interesting if you play in the rules. There's no way you can play this wrong.
But I will say, one of the things I think would be helpful in each archetype page is having, like, and it's just something that I had started doing based on, other games I played, is like having that, real basic stuff description of, like kind of the, 2-3 paragraphs, small, like less than a dozen sentences of this is what this is, right? So a little bit more the elevator pitch than what Bill just did. Physical characteristics, like this is what these creatures tend to look like. Now for Arcanist, right, that's the whole wide range of everything.
Right.
I feel like
that's
lore
that's almost where you
do
bring the artwork in,
Yeah.
you know, and let pictures come in of the given characters.
But then having something that says, like what I wrote up for the human, right, just as an example, was playing a human. Play a human if you want a character that can easily blend into the world around you and can be almost infinitely customized to fit your particular storyline or setting. While humans may not have the sheer physicality or supernatural abilities of other archetypes, they can make up these differences through skills and adaptability. Like, it's like 2 sentences, right? But just like, if you're playing it, this is kind of what you're in for if you're playing a human.
Mhm.
Just so that they're not, thinking something totally different. Because maybe you have, your concept of vampire is Twilight.
Ugh.
And
I mean-
maybe someone else's concept of vampire is Dresden Files Black Court. Like, they look like gigantic, man bats with black rubbery skin and all that, and they're psychic. Or this one is, blood hungry Nosferatu, or right. So just having that as
Not the man
think-
bat.
a couple of sentences, something real simple.
Right. What I'll
yeah,
do
I mean,
is
we can go through there. Yeah.
yeah, like the whole description bit. So what I will do is I will put out there, this is the typical common, like that's what those descriptions are going to be good for. It's like, this is what the average of this archetype would usually represent. You can kind of see these things out there, but the last thing I'm going to do is tell a GM that this is the only breed or whatever else. In fact, that's the whole premise behind that custom archetype once again, is so that if the GM is so inclined, they can start throwing in their own weird crap and throwing everybody off balance and create a whole new supernatural entities or beings that aren't a part of the normal bestiary.
Well, maybe
Okay,
that-
so
maybe-
so this actually makes me wonder here. We do this in teaching sometimes. When we look at things, we look at what's known as the high example, the mid-level, and the low. Would it be beneficial to have in there not only, hey, this is what this, your average run-of-the-mill character looks like, but also here's your steroided out super character that has been created. Let that be your example of how you can make your character crazy super awesome.
It reminds me of those like mobile game ads that are like level 1, level 25.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think part of since we're relying on a cinematic experience for a lot of this,
mhm.
I think using those as examples, like exactly what Drew was saying, like, if we're talking werewolf, it could be Teen Wolf.
Mr. Bigsby.
It could be, the like Worgen from World of Warcraft that are like, proper British top
Proper
hat
British.
wearing werewolves. It could be, the underworld, like full feral lichen, like, or whatever in
like
between.
Lycan.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
that would
Altered
be.
Beast.
Yeah, I just want to. I
Oh.
want to show, because I think that makes sense to me. Kind of like what you're saying, Drew. I think what you're trying to do is basically this is like one potential way of addressing how awesome it can be. I think that's more or less what you're going for. And
Yeah, it's letting people see, like, hey, here's what you could do. But if you pay more and you put a little bit more effort into it, here's what you could get. Because think of the characters. How many times have we played where we run into a character that's just this badass character and you're like, oh yeah, that was someone's character once.
That's happened like 4 or 5 times now.
Yeah, and it almost becomes like that's become my aspiration with Ivar. Like, I want Ivar to be like, he's got to survive this so he can, like, earn his way into the game. Like, it's like you win enough gladiator fights, they let you win.
right. So the real winner part is that you get the cameo. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
pretty awesome. Yeah,
That's the 20th month milestone.
yeah, right.
Cameo in someone's game. So last week, Ken and Drew, you weren't here, right?
No, last week was a bad week.
So
We don't speak of it. You built what?
We built Wolverine. We made Wolverine a character in Shadows. Like, we went through character creation process and recreated Wolverine. Logan with the claws and the healing.
Yep,
and, like,
Nice.
all that.
yep. We went
And
through.
we didn't do it as an archetype of like werewolf, vampire, anything. We went through as a human and then added some custom flavor on there through powers and things like that.
Flavor Flav.
Cool.
That is pretty
And
cool.
Man, did we do a really good job, I think, in 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was
And
less
it
than
worked
that.
out.
Yeah, it was 35 minutes long. It was like 30 to 35 minutes, and we had a full. Well, and I can even just recap it a little bit.
And we didn't even like cheat on the stats. We you rolled the
But-
dice
but-
and okay.
But you had 35 minutes to create a character from scratch.
We weren't even trying
I mean,
to time it like
from-
that. We had like an hour and a half to try and make it. I was like, I wonder how long it's gonna take. It took us 35 minutes because we were like,
No, that's
yeah.
just really impressive.
yeah.
now
So
we have 60 years of comic book history helping us, but still.
right, that's that whole really refined. Like, this is probably the best example of have a really, really specific concept in mind and know how it all works, and then watch how it just like glides right into Shadows with no trouble.
Yeah, so
Just-
I have a
just
question.
slithers in
How
there.
do you explain that without violating copyright laws?
Well, see, the thing about
Because
that is that if you want to make any, because like everybody does that from the tabletop side, I'm not going to leave this in shadows. What I'm saying is sort of like, hey, it can be done.
No. I understand it, but you don't want to be like, hey, you can be anything. You could be Wolverine. You could be Mickey Mouse. Like, you can't mention the characters
You
because
can't
at some
advertise
point,
Right.
yeah, at some point you will get a cease and desist
Well-
letter from Disney.
You can say, hey bub, you can make your favorite regenerating short
Bub.
Canadian.
Yeah.
I like that.
Pull off the freaking Deadpool things. It's sort of like, I can't tell you who it is, but he had a nice smooth pair of yeah, down under.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so moving on, the Nephilim. Give me the elevator pitch.
Child of a celestial or demonic entity, and born with specific innate powers and abilities. But yeah, I'll actually. Why don't I just do?
Well, I'm just writing stuff down just to like put it out there, like just making you think about it right now. I don't want to try putting in the 2 paragraphs like why would you choose this character. I just want to.
No.
That's not
Yeah.
even. Yeah, I'm not worried
Like,
about that. I was thinking
Why would
about
you choose this guy? Why are you even playing this game? Like, do you need to be told why you're playing this game? Really? You're playing this game because it's fun.
Well, and this the reason I'm picking your brain the way this specifically is that I want to see what your thought is on that, because I mean the werewolf is a really good example. I had a different mindset on what a werewolf was when you said protector of humanity. I was like, wait, what? So that was good. I like that's a nice twist on that like archetype that people would not catch normally, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What I
Uh,
really like is, for something like that, the first time I saw Underworld was the first time I ever considered vampires and werewolves working together, with werewolves being the daytime
Underworld was so good.
guardian.
I loved Underworld.
Like, not working together, but like, that they were the
Age
daytime
275.
force.
All right, first of all, Wolverine is not 300. Oh, you're,
So-
you're,
Yes, he
you're
is.
arguing. He's 300 pounds.
Yep.
His adamantium.
Adamantium
Oh,
skeleton.
like that. So
Okay.
uh,
I did
Nephilim
the math on how
could-
much Barrack should weigh,
Oh, how much
and it
do you
turns
weigh?
out that a robotic arm weighs less than a human arm. So he actually only weighs like 200 pounds because he's like missing a leg, and like all that meat weighs more than an average prosthetic leg.
Fascinating.
All right, what are his? Okay, you gave him unlucky, a thick skull, thick skin, pain tolerance, martial master, hard to kill. Yeah, enemies. You missed one of his.
He's
you missed one
critiquing
of-
you guys.
You missed one of his greatest disadvantages.
Being?
He's an alcoholic who can't get drunk.
Well,
That's a role play element that you can put in
It
there.
has to. One of my favorite are the comics when Wolverine would be trying to get drunk and he couldn't get drunk, and he would just be so upset that he couldn't get drunk. No, I think this is awesome. You guys did athletics, yeah.
So,
Awareness,
question
very
about
aware.
Nephilim.
Yeah.
You said they're child of celestial or divine being. They're different than demons and angels.
But
What?
they're like a half, right? So is it
Yeah.
a human and a...
Okay, so
Yeah.
that's important. It's a celestial, divine being.
Yeah.
Think demons and angels. Demon, angel.
yeah, born of celestial or demon blood, but only by they're half mortal, which is what's going to be. So the Nephilim are actually technically considered to be immortal in a strange way because they can only die in very specific manners. They're kind of interesting.
Okay, that's perfect.
So in
So-
the expansion, we'll have demons, angels, and Nephilim.
Yep.
I mean, these are archetypes he already has in here. We haven't gotten to them yet, but yeah. Okay, what about dreamlings? Are
That'll
these
be
Fae?
the stretch goal. on
They
the
are
Kickstarter.
they are dreams that become self-aware, cast by usually younger children or teens in desperate need of help.
So if a dream becomes self-aware, what if the person wakes up?
They
Does that person stop existing?
No, that's why they're self-aware, is that they become
It's,
persistent beings.
Oh, they're not only are they self-aware, but they are also manifest.
Yeah, they can come through the dream world and into the physical world.
The Dark Knight, dude.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Steve,
Cool.
or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
So
His name is Dark Knight.
You could have a dreamling like Freddy Krueger.
Yes, which would actually
Like you can
become... Yeah, it's a nightmare creature is what that would be then. And the thing about that is that each dreamling comes with their own dreamscape, which is a small Neverland at the start that is all their own. Like at street level, it's basically like a small house. But when
You
you
say
get
small
Claire-
Neverland? Or-
yes, a small...
Clarification here.
Yep.
D, how do you go about if someone says, hey, I'd like to create Freddy Krueger as my character? How do you go about saying, okay, he fits this archetype, he fits this characteristic? Because
Well-
you do that a lot when we come up with characters like, oh yeah, you're just doing this. But you do it so naturally. It doesn't come that way for me. Is that just from years of doing this? Or do you just have a system? What's the magic?
I think it's part practice as just in general, like my familiarity with all the different archetypes. But the archetypes also have a tendency to sort of cover a lot of areas. Like they happen to actually cover a lot of the supernatural type lore and mythos that we already have. So if you say I want to do something like this, well, it's like, well, that ties in. It's kind of like it's almost like how many different ways can I see how this particular idea matches or aligns with one of the already existing archetypes, right? Because the existing archetypes in and of themselves, it's really hard to come up with new ones. And the dream creature thing was a character of mine that I started, which then became this whole thing. It changed the entirety of All Shadows because the way that it worked out is that Dark Knight started causing other Dreamcasters who were latent and unaware to start waking up. And then you had the really psychopathic, like younger child and teenager type people getting to the point where their nightmares were suddenly coming to life as well, and they were creating their own nightmarescapes, their own nightmare creatures, all of that. And so they became kings of their own castle. Think of the movie The Cell. Like, they became like that in and of themselves and started, like, creating hordes of nightmares to get whatever they wanted. And it turns out that, like, dream space in and of itself, that particular plane, is just as interconnected and as crazy as the Silk Road is. And so it generated a whole new layer. And dream creatures and nightmare creatures, those things like the dreamlings and the nightmare creatures both carry very unique characteristics. Like nightmare creatures in particular have this thing that if they are, if they emerge in the physical realm at night, they generally can't be, damaged by standard physical materia, except for in the daytime they're susceptible to it. And that's the thing, is that they have a lot of really crazy ass little extra rules, but it's really hard to come up with something that's new like that creates a ripple. But it's not to say that it's impossible. It's just, for one guy like me with a system that's already so diverse, it's really hard to generate something brand new like that. So
neat.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it kind of spawned out. One part experience, but it's interesting, but the scope of the archetypes really do cover a lot of ground and a lot of common ground.
I'm wondering if something should be made of note of that like given time and experience, you should be able to fit anything from fiction and reality to any of the archetypes in the game.
I mean, that's a pastime of mine, at least, in RPGs, is like I'll take a character from a movie. How can I make this character? And I'll tell you what, way easier to make it in Shadows than it is in D&D.
Okay, so how about demons? Give me the demon.
Demons
Give me the hot
are
guy.
literally the classic, as you might expect. Well, I say classic, but demons represent all of the human failings, all the 7 sins, because there's the various layers. But they represent the sins of humanity made manifest, and they are generated in multiple ways. They can be done either from the soul falling to hell, if that's what they intend to do, or they can literally be born of hell without ever having been human to start with.
Okay, cool. So you're saying demons don't have to be humans to start with, is what you just said.
Right.
Don't have to start. So you could have a demon werewolf. You could have a demon cyborg. You could have a demon dreamling.
Well, so that's where, like I said, some of the crossovers don't exactly work. Why? Because demonic origins would negate the ability to be dreamling. They don't have the same origin point. You wouldn't be able to dream up a demon that already exists. They already exist. Like I said, the natural order circumvents the ability to cross over in certain ways. However,
Okay, we'll have to figure that out as we get further in, as far as like just the mechanics of what you're, because like you say, I know you already have the built-in paywall to min-max,
right.
but you'll have to have like the rules in place just so that someone doesn't accidentally break things.
Right. Well, in this case, like I said, what I can tell you is that some crossover,
Right.
not all. Like, and I said, it depends on the source of your being. If you're human, you have options. You can go all sorts of places. If you start human, you could become a Dreamcaster/Dreamling, or, you know, like you could do weird crap, but that's one of those things where it's like Dreamcaster would be what you'd end up as. It's all about where you start. But it would be interesting to start out as you could be either or. Like, that's the cool thing about the Dreamling one, is that you can actually be the Dreamling itself, or you could end up being the Dreamcaster, which is just as interesting because it means that you have a dream that follows you around as God. And it basically tries to protect you as bodyguard, because that's exactly what Dark Knight is. Natalie is his goddess. He worships the hell out of her, and he follows the very rules that have been embedded into his personality. He cannot deviate. He cannot harm an unarmed target, period. If he does, he has to be punished severely in order for it to become undone, or he becomes unplayable. He ends up stopping right there. And, you know, like, there's like deep encoding from, you know, being the Dreamling. So you get to play either the one who is the worshipper or the worshipped.
The worshipee.
Yeah. So it's one of those kind of cool matter of fact points where you can kind of play it from either side. It's kind of an interesting one. Like I said, the Dreamling one is the one I really like. I really like that one because it's got so much versatility and it's just weird. And that it has that whole like other dimensional quality to it, which I seem to have a serious fetish for.
All right, how about angels?
Of the choirs from God, and you know there's only one series of angels that supposedly can't fall, but that's been disproven. The seraphim. Seraphim aren't supposed to be able to fall, but Michael, the archangel, is on Earth, so.
So angels are
Too bad.
Are seraphim.
Well, specific archangels are seraphim, yeah, like Raphael, Michael, all those. They are of the seraphim choir, but the yeah, they are the classic Christian mythology, but with a few tweaks. So.
Hey, we use the same words.
Yep.
That's what I put in the demon section. It's like, just think Christian mythology. Okay, we'll have to flesh out angels a little bit more. What about beastkin?
They're interesting. They are probably the one that would probably attribute to be the most special in your case, Ken, because they have attributes that either emulate or offer bonus of. Think of they have traits that come in with all sorts of animals. We're talking like hawks, rats, certain felines like cougars, tigers, leopards, things like that. They all have their own unique like metal allergies. Like rat has a copper allergy, but they have a bonus to magic. So if you ever see a rat beastkin who starts learning the arcane or using ether, they are going to have a little bit of a jump, because that's kind of their primary thing. But they suffer withering damage from copper. So they're all sort of their unique special kind of combination, and they all have their different advantages.
That's cool. But to be clear, are you saying that you're going to be writing in like all kinds of different like ratkin and other beastkin?
Yep, that's going to be.
How many are you going to like? You should limit yourself. There's a lot of animals out there.
Yeah,
Or
I've
like
already
make
got
it
the
like
list.
categorical.
Where's
Oh,
the?
okay.
I think I put my stuff away. Hang on.
The 12 of the Zodiac.
That would be a
That-
good way to list it out for sure.
That would be
Yeah.
a good way to limit yourself so you're not like.
Well, I was thinking like do prey
Actually,
versus
I'm a
predator
dolphin
type of
kin,
beastkin.
and-
Yeah, I'm a dolphinkin.
Oh, I'm only worried about the furries. Anyway.
Assemble the furries.
No, I'm not that worried about the furries.
You say yiff underwater.
Just start gargling water and say yeah.
Dolphins, the rapists of the sea.
Yeah, they're not pleasant creatures.
What were you guys talking about? I missed who you were referring to.
Dolphins.
Dolphins?
Just
Oh,
dolphins in
right.
general.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we got Leonine, Wolfkin, Retkin, Bastion, Bearkin, Reptilian, Dragon, and Satyr. I don't know why those are there, but I'll probably work it in.
Okay. I was thinking we might want to have custom generic so that we could appease the people that want to be the dolphinkin. Because you could
Well, that's again,
characterize.
custom archetype. Anytime you want to deviate, custom. Like, you just go from
Well,
there.
I mean, like you could easily categorize animal traits. You know, there's predators, there's prey, and then there's air, land, sea.
Yeah.
Like,
Like I said,
And
that's
that's definitely like in a GM workshop sort of
yeah.
section where you could say creating a custom race, right? Like
Oh, right. I forgot.
of a beastkin, take 2 typical traits associated with that animal.
The other part about the Beastkin that I forgot about entirely is that they're actually one of the few like primarily psychic character
I remember you
archetypes.
saying that.
What? Ah!
Keep it simple. No dolphins, no unicorns. Just
Yeah, but anyway, Beastkin are
Oh,
like
cool.
one of the few psychic archetypes that are actually out there.
cool. Well, there's the what I'm going to be like drilling into as you start filling these out is like what makes these things unique and why would someone choose it over another besides someone coming in with a very specific idea and then it just happens to the Plinko machine. It's like, oh, here it is. You have an archetype for you. I'll be asking lots of questions as we get in there. But for now, this is a good overview. How about dead men? What are dead men?
Dead men were referred to originally as the Walking Dead, but since the show came out, I couldn't use that anymore. They're technically zombies, but they are terrifying by comparison. And if you have anybody who's used to being afraid of zombies, yes, I mean more scary than that. But they are a very powerful undead that eat humans. And I don't mean blood, I mean they actually eat them. That they go for the heart and brain. But they also have a way of slow feeding. So
It's
they
like
don't
beef
just
jerky. They just keep one in the cheek pouch.
well.
Just start smoking.
So one of the ways that they do it is that they secrete this forgive me, they secrete this like natural natural toxin from anywhere that you can, like salivary glands or anywhere else that has something similar. So if they kiss a person or do anything that is like remotely intimate in any particular way, if they manage to get
White Court vampires.
yeah, kind of. If they get to that point, what happens is that, first of all, the person becomes massively addicted, seeking more and more of that particular toxin. The other part is that there's a pain-pleasure crossover, which means that whenever they are being devoured, as slowly as they are in absolute rapture. It's not pain and agony they suffer while you're peeling off sections of their skin. It is the opposite. So it does this thing where it basically shuts off pain receptors and makes them utterly susceptible to the feeding process, makes them manic for it. And so that's how the dead men survive and thrive. But they don't have to eat nearly as much. It's not like
Just
they have to go out and have a drink and all like every night or whatever to keep themselves sustained. They're not constantly dropping off.
Brings a whole new meaning to ladyfingers.
Right. Yeah. They're basically the undead Hannibal Lecters that we all know and love, but with special magical pseudo magical abilities. Things like Balefire or Bone Cage and other terrifying grotesque body horror type stuff.
You're gonna have to figure out a new name for Balefire
Mm-hmm.
by the end of season 2 of Wheel of Time.
I'll try and differentiate it as much as I can. I don't know, like some of the more common stuff like Balefire, I think they don't really they can't like intellectual property. It's like, well, yeah, but it's a myth concept. Everybody knows what this is. Good one, Drew, by the way. I just caught the Homer thing.
Thank you.
What about what's a lost one?
Those are the Fae. They have been cut off from their Isle of Avalon. So elves, smaller Fae, goblins, orcs, the lot. All of those that can be considered part of the Fae or world of fairy.
They seek the land of Toyota.
That's funny.
I can't stop staring at that unicorn dude.
It's uncanny.
Bum, 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 bum.
Cool.
The
I mean,
bum part's the worst part.
that's all of the archetypes. Did you have any other archetypes that you were gonna throw in here, or
No, these. So what we're starting with is just the baseline for the main book here, which is going to end up being the human cyborg, vampire, werewolf, arcanist, and I believe that's just that, and then the custom one
Okay.
to get everybody
Everyone
kind of
else is gonna
started.
be-
Yeah, those first 5.
Yep.
So then my question is, for these professions that you have,
Mhm.
are those limited to humans?
Yes. The reason why they're limited to humans is because as a human, you'd have to develop that skill set to gain that attribute. You can't just go like, okay, I'm a vampire. I'm now going to start taking up this profession. You know, it's like, yeah, you're starting off, but you're not going to have the kind of advantage that somebody who's been doing that their whole life. You haven't been life focused on that, which is why they get those they get those attributions or those edges, advantages, tweaks, whatever you want to call it. But all of those things are built on the fact that they've spent their lifetime from a young age developing the skills necessary and then pushing that beyond the standard. Which is why I was saying, if you start out at street level with a profession in mind and then get another like archetype thrust upon you, like becoming a werewolf or vampire or whatever, you've got added stuff attached to that you can't get any other way.
So just to be sure, you said human, arcanist, vampire, werewolf, and what was the last one? That's in
The
core
custom
book?
one is what I'm throwing in, but the cyborg is
Custom.
acts as another one. Yeah, I'm going to add custom into this first book because it's going to basically break open the door to, hey, when you want to make your own stuff, this is how you do it, and you know, like more or less, this is kind of what you can expect or how you can run it, so that you can, you know, adapt.
I updated the book, or I updated the notebook to. I made a page called base book and a page called expansion archetype, and I made sub pages for each of the ones we just decided.
Yeah,
So it's all hierarchical.
I
hierarchical.
wanted to have like spirit detective, part of the Spirit Force team.
He's really pushing for it.
Police is the
Spirit Force.
supernatural. Well, I forgot what SFR stood for.
Spirit,
And I was
spiritual
like,
force
SFR,
rating, yeah.
SFR. Oh, spiritual force rating, and I'm like, that sounds like Spirit Force. But I was watching Yu Yu Hakusho, and he's a spirit detective with a cool spirit gun.
One shot, one hitter quitter.
Yeah, well, and yeah, yep.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
trying to figure out how to. I know, like when we were like way back when, you know, we're talking about this. We had talked about how like every character is like a base human and then has an event that makes them a vampire or a werewolf or whatever. And then
Mhm.
we've kind of changed that around because that doesn't work all the time. Like, and having everyone start as vanilla humans and then having to write in a, okay, it's session 3. I'm gonna get my vampire powers now. Like,
Well, what I
you
mean
know,
by
it's not as
base, by starting
interesting.
out base human, what I mean by that is that you always roll it up human, and then when you're in the character creation process and go, you have to roll it up human first, get all your stats in place, and then all your skills and that stuff, the baseline, including the advantages, disadvantages, you get that stuff taken care of, and then you slap on the archetype, and that lays over the top. Just like it would be if you were playing a cyborg, you're adding on all the cybernetics and all that other stuff that layer in and add that stuff to it. But when you're making something supernatural like an archetype, you're basically going like, okay, we're going to roll a human. so that you've got the baseline, the foundation of what they're constructed with. The only time that may variate, but even still mechanically, you're just rolling up base human and then building that up based on what the archetype boosts you with. Now, because the other archetypes haven't been designed yet, you won't see what that is, but if you look at the original ones, they always added like stat bonuses and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just have to create a way to purchase an archetype. Like,
Well, you could do that, and I was contemplating that very thing, where you just go like, okay, I want to purchase this particular archetype, but if it's your, like, the only problem I ran into is like, okay, if it's your focus, you're not purchasing it, you're just going to go through the process. You're going to, because...
yeah, but what I mean is, so that someone who is a human has to choose between, do I become a cleaner, enforcer, vigilante, whatever, or do I become, like, as in the character creation process,
Right.
do I go human professional or do I go vampire? Because,
Right.
you know, like, so if we say, pick your profession, this costs 10 IP, right? Like, this costs 10 freebie points, and you can select a profession and get all these things with it. Or you can spend those 10 and become a vampire.
Well,
like,
see,
I think there's got to be some balance there.
well, so the thing about that in terms of balance is that, again, balance is determined by power level. And that's, you don't have to worry about
I mean, within a group, if,
power level.
I mean, we're all started at the same power level, Bill's character could wreck Barrick without lifting a finger.
Right, and it's because of the fact that the system itself was designed in such a way that there was a nested power level within power levels. That was the problem, which is what I'm fixing with the new archetype rewrites, in that if you start at a certain power level, they stay ripped like that. He's boosted above, because he's like purchased, like within that nested power level system, he's purchased other power levels above himself and gone beyond that, which means that the whole group gets sucked in like a vacuum to whatever his problems
Thanks,
are.
Bill.
Everybody else has to deal with. You know what I mean? So you're
I just mean
absolutely
like
correct.
like a day one, someone who's, we're all meeting, you know, in the middle of the street, and it's our first session together. We want to make sure that the characters are comparable to each other in their own ways. They've all got their niche that they're going to do well, but that they need to be comparable. And so having a supernatural with a mundane that works if the mundane has something that gives them, that raises them up, and saying, this will be in session 20, you guys will be great. Like, there's a reason that, you know, a lot of people in
but hold on,
magic users are so glass cannon until like level 5, and then they wreck everything because they can cast fireball. Like, you know,
So-
I'm just
but
that's
there's
the
also
thing.
something to be said about our group. Like, it is true, when we started this, Bill's character could just take on the whole group and kick our asses, but we've all grown into our characters in ways that he's not necessarily the most powerful among us anymore.
Well,
And we all have our strengths to contribute.
True enough. But to address the exact question that you're talking about, again, power level. Power level will determine what's going on. In other words, you are going to be talking about what the GM will do for starting out a campaign, especially if character creation is in the process. GM decides what the power level of the campaign will be. That's how they begin it. Everybody will follow those points, and the archetypes will mirror that capacity, meaning that they will be heavily limited if they're street level and not as limited if they're heroic. And the thing about that is that when you get to heroic human levels and a heroic demon level, they will have their comparabilities, because if you stay straight human and go straight down that line, they have way more points, they have a lot less issue, their numbers will go up. And so, like, the skills for humanity, like the human side of it, including the amount of cybernetics, the amount of wealth, all of that goes up. And so all of their advantages increase with the power level. So what causes the balance to stay where it's supposed to be based on the party that's involved is that you can go, okay, power level is the focal point instead of having, like, the costs in between. Because you have only a limited number of freebie points based on power level already. And like I said, what I've been finding is that with the testing of all this stuff is that street level human is perfect. That is the baseline that I'm going to be working with. So if you create a street level demon, because that is a thing, if you create a street level demon, they should only have so many little powers and so many little tweaks. Yes, they are supernatural, but they are not going to be so sophisticated or so over the top that they overrun a human being with the same like cybernetic or other enhancements or advantages, disadvantages that, like push them out. They should be able to tack it in. So the concern is valid. But I am definitely rewriting these archetypes for that reason, and I am abolishing that nested power level crap. Because that stuff right there was weird. And watching Bill completely smoke the hell out of it was like funny as hell, but at the same time like, holy shit, dude.
Bill's our min-maxer.
Well, the dead men, the way that was written in the book is like,
yeah.
I do appreciate the way that was written to a certain extent, where it was kind of like, if you're in this campaign power level, you can pick, you can only be a Lich King if you're at this high level, but if you're at a low level, then you're a crawler or something like that. Like that makes sense, but I could never figure out like,
yeah,
how do I level up my zombie into becoming, a Lich King.
Right, and that was the other thing too, is that there are a lot of things I'm going to be fixing with the rewrite of these archetypes, because a lot of the archetypes right now as they stand were not written by me. They were written by my roommate at the time. And so it was like, okay, but that's why I'm just going to be like, okay, I'm scrapping a lot of the stuff that doesn't really tie in. It's kind of fun when you look at it, but if you really want to get out of homebrew and into this is how the system works, then using the tool of power level as the primary like balance factor, that's how I can manage to keep everything stabilized, because the power level really helps determine how many points you can use, what are your max ranks, how high of a power can you have at the start, so that way you're not just going like, well, I'm going to have a level 20 in magic, so like it's street level, dude. You're not going to be able to sit there and just, fart out an apocalypse just because you want to. It gives you something to chase.
I want to fart out on apocalypse.
Yeah, I think that keeping an eye on balance is going to be critical, so I'm glad that that's already there.
Yeah.
And yeah, any game has to have that. If you don't have a proper balance, what ultimately ends up happening is people take advantage of the system. There's no fun.
Right.
The fun of
There's
the game
no variation,
is,
and everybody says, well, I'm going to be an enforcer werewolf because then I get double, survival skills and I can game the system. It's that coffee lock, right? It's
right.
that
That's such a great video.
It fully is, but it's like, that's what happens, and that's with a thoroughly tested system.
Right.
And we have to say, well, a good GM, oh my gosh, yes, but for every one good GM, there's 5,000
this
that
is
want
the
to beat their players.
This is the one part about Shadows, though, that I think is going to solve that problem in an unusual way. Everybody loves, so D&D, speaking of the coffee lock, D&D really focuses heavily on the matter of, it's a matter of restriction. No matter how many times I try to cut it up in my head, it's a matter of restriction. How do we restrict how far you can go, right? And I'm trying to think of,
there's a level cap, and there's spells per day, and
there's just so
an encounter
many.
Power and,
there's just so many different ways. And I'm going like, okay, there needs to be a diverse yet universal set of laws that will always apply regardless of whatever character you're playing, which is the reason why will is so important, tolerance is so important, SFR is so important. Those things really act as broad universal truths within the system. So you can basically interchange whatever powers you want and apply that to SFR, and there is your mechanic for keeping it under wraps. But it can be re-explained over and over and over again for about how it functions or why. Like, those parts can be tweaked, but whenever you're looking at the system balance, it's the diversity that causes the level playing field. It's the fact that there aren't as many restrictions. The more restrictions you throw into a game, the easier it is to circumvent it, strangely enough. Because there aren't enough probabilities, there aren't enough variables, and there aren't enough ways of getting around a certain problem. There has to be basic mechanics so everybody knows what's happening with the stuff that they're using. Like, will tests and like the essence checks, holy crap. I've been wanting to like try that out since I've started my Final Dawn system like almost 10 years ago. I started thinking about breaking down each stat into multi D10 pools and confronting magical attacks in that particular way because it seemed awesome to me, and it does. It works out so well. But I mean like the essence checks is a baseline, universal law. When you're dealing with a multiple die pool type strike or attack, it has a very certain behavior. So it's like magic versus, essence check, ding, works out great. And it doesn't give somebody, like carte blanche to just go crazy. They can't just override that. They have to go against that whole thing. And the thing about that is that it doesn't, with the lack of restrictions, means that min-maxers will actually have a much more difficult time trying to min-max, because wherever they go to try and min-max something out, just like in real life, they'll pile up in this one area, and there'll be something else that isn't as specialized that has totally different like capabilities, and just smash that right over the top if they don't play right. And it's about the player themselves constructing a character concept, not trying to, overachieve in a mechanical area, which is where I think some of my audience is probably going to get dropped off. They're probably not going to like it as much because it's not as mechanically inclined. And that's the thing that I want to stay away from. I want the mechanics to support story and the experience. I don't want mechanics to be the focus, which a lot of systems really do. It's more about supporting the mechanics versus supporting story and the player and the whole situation, which is what, Shadows really does. It helps uplift all the crazy stuff you can think of without getting in the way or interfering. It's like you don't have to look at the engine of your car all the time. You just know that it runs. And if it starts to have trouble, you take it to somebody to figure it out, obviously, which is what we're doing. But like the car part, you never have to look at the engine all the time to tweak it, but you can. But it's not in your way. Once it's running well, it's running. You can just go with it. It becomes simplified. A lot of work up front. Hardly any at all when playing. That's what I want.
That's neat.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm hopefully satisfying the actual concern or question at least. At least I hope I am.
I'm
Well,
so
yeah,
satisfied.
I like the professions. I think that, like I said, that adds a lot to why play a human.
Right. Yeah, they needed just as much diversity as the rest of them. They were almost too diverse, too blank. And but in my head, all that stuff with the professions and stuff, in my head they were all there like that already.
You think
yeah.
people are like, oh, just a vanilla human.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, nothing's wrong with vanilla because it works well with chocolate chips and sprinkles and Reese's
Vanilla's
peanut butter
damn
cups
delicious.
and
Damn
all
straight.
those other things that you can add in there.
Yep. But
Yep.
it's a highly functional bit. Plus, the other thing too is that if you ever want to branch out once you've started out as a human, you can get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 sessions in, get a couple milestones under your belt, and then you could basically go hey, it'd be really cool if my character could do this. You could sort of plot out where you might want to go, and then have the GM collaborate with you on being turned or something else like that to throw the game into a wholly new direction, which is fucking awesome.
So talk about milestones, because I had just started we had talked about how milestones are basically a meta reward.
So milestone, the whole milestones bit is going to be the way you can measure out. It's a way of measuring out character experience in a sense, but through player participation, period. So you basically build it up, and I don't know if Drew's got it open, but for anybody who hasn't looked at the milestone page, it has number of sessions. So if you play as the character, you get to tick that up at 5 sessions played. So if you show up for the session, play for 20 minutes, this is generally my thought, it's if you show up and you play, you get it. You could push it to where it's if you complete a session, then you can get it. But in my case, I'm just if you show up and you play, whatever, you get it. But the milestone is that you get 5 of the 5 sessions in, you get yourself a minor, or a lesser milestone, which means that you get a little bit of a boost somewhere on the character where you want, and it would be built on the primary archetype that you have. So if you started out as a human, regardless of power level, you'll get yourself a lesser milestone, which could be like overloading a skill, which is kind of like getting the like the D4 or the D6 added to it whenever you're rolling, that kind of stuff. You can overload another one, or you could like overload a similar one that you already have right now, like go a little bit, in that direction. I'm building up exactly what the milestones can be per archetype, which is just going to be, I hate to say this, but it's going to be fun for me. It's going to be a lot because, there's going to be a lot of archetypes, obviously, but there's going to be a lot of fun stuff, and I want to have a lot of different milestones available based on the fundamental archetypes you play. But so 5 is a lesser. You play up to 10 sessions, and you get a greater milestone, which is like just pushing something else out. And this was built out of the premise of, like how do you like maximize or get your ultimate, or how do you do whatever? And you could sit there and like, well, we came up with like milestone tiers of play, stuff like that, and I just kind of got into my head and I was like, well, let's make it participatory in the sense that if you play the game and you show up and you hang out and you do all these things, you can get your milestone points up for each session you play. And so it gives you this targeted reason to show up, first of all. Second of all, it really can help show the age of a character. So like the whole 20 months of play with only missing a few sessions here and there would have a lot of milestones by now. And it would not only add boosts to the character and their capacity and show exactly how much they've been involved, it also gives a sort of, it grows an attachment between you and the character that further increases it. Like not like it isn't already powerful whenever you're dealing with, an archetype that you have like thrown yourself into with a direct character concept and you've made it personally yours. You're already really connected to this character to start with, and then you throw in the milestone. It does that extra added dose of like, this is mine, I get to play it, and I've you can really see the progress going on up, and I'm huge on that. For me, I love seeing progress. So watching all that stuff kind of tick up and get better and better and better, and it's like, ooh, what am I going to pick for my next one? It gives things to chase. And more than that, it also does one other thing, which is risk. It makes the risk of loss much more profound. And so if you play a character for 15 sessions and you've gotten 3 milestones and he gets bumped off on session 17, it's going to suck. But that's kind of the allure, is that, oh shit, I made it 17 sessions and then died. It's like,
well, and it means that if we're playing a heroic power level and, Ken's been showing up every session for 6 months and I come in starting fresh today, even if I try to make like an identical character, I won't be able to do it because I won't have those unique milestone things.
Right. Yeah, it kind of allows for a little bit of, again, it just gives you something to chase, gives you something to go after, and it makes it worthwhile.
That sounds really interesting. I like the idea of it.
I almost like that more than IP.
Well,
Only because IP is so subjective, arbitrary. Like, depending on assuming you're fair,
right?
Depending on how you deem how much we've been through, how much we've played, are we going to hold back IP for 2 or 3 sessions and then give it when the scene finishes, or give it every session or whatever? Like, we could be playing and I could be like, I bet we earned 40 IP from that, and you're like, 16 IP, everybody did a really good job, and I'm like, damn
it. So what that brings to light in my head, as far as that goes, is that I could still use IP, but I could use milestones to grant it instead. I just redirect the flow. In other words, you could end up doing this thing where it's like, okay, you've played 5 sessions, you get your lesser milestone. You can have a plethora of choices, like overloading the skill, gaining this, gaining that, certain specific things, or you can go or because you've played this, you get an IP dump, and you can spend that on updating certain skills at the same cost that they already are, but you know what you're going to get in that dump. and I would just balance out the other like little lesser like main options to where they are moderately powerful, but they aren't as widespread. So if you weren't, it's like if you wanted to do that, plus it gives like that sense of choice of like, okay, I could either do an IP dump and get this character built up in all these weird areas and plug holes, or I could get this one ability that I've been like eyeballing for a while now, like without overloading that choice.
Yeah, it's a tricky balance because I love IP,
Yeah.
but a non-you GM is not gonna treat it the same way, and like that's one of the
Right.
You know, I've talked about how much I hate experience points.
Mhm.
Right, I don't use them when I GM in
Right.
D&D. I don't use experience points. I use milestones. You are gonna stay level 6 until you finish this story beat, and then you'll become level 7. There's no amount of goblins and rats you can kill that will push you to level 7. When you finish,
Somebody doesn't like grinding.
when the ship docks, or I mean, if you find a clever way to resolve it early, like, you know, when this scene is done, when this episode is finished, right, then you'll find the cool sword or whatever. So I like IP from that angle, but I really like milestones that are specific to your archetype.
Character or archetype.
Yeah.
Yeah, so being, okay, you're a human, you gain 5 skill points, which can be used to directly raise a skill by 1 point. Instead of paying the normal IP cost of, you know, current skill level times 5 in IP or whatever. Like, this is a special thing that you can do because it's been 10 sessions or whatever. Like, I love like a concept like that. I love them both, but I think there'll have to be some guidelines written out for IP.
Oh, I was planning on doing so. Like, basically, it's like,
this
this is average amount that you might get. You know, like, if you introduce combat, there's a lot of point systems that I used to read up on that would be like, here, actually, I'm coming back all the way back to Rifts again, where they were talking about how to offer up experience. I had that in my head going like, okay, this is kind of what I want to do is show, this is what you would want to do. Award this much IP if these circumstances happen, and award this much if this
happened. You don't want
happened.
to go into table hell where
No.
it's like, roll 5 d10s and choose from the treasure table. Oh, great.
Yeah, no.
Paintings.
Yeah,
What
no,
am I
not
supposed
that.
to do with all these statuettes and paintings?
Well, that reminds me of what when D was DMing for his kids, and they got like some rod of like.
Yeah, it was.
Like they just opened up a chest and it was like a 5,000 gold item.
Yeah, it was a rare Rod of the Pact Keeper, and I was like looking up costs, and it's like 5,000 gold. I'm like, what the f?
Because it's a, you know, you roll on table H and you got a 20, and okay, now your kid's walking around with the lesser artifact of the planet, right? Like, there's treasure tables.
Yeah, no,
And
not
we
going.
don't have treasure. You know, we haven't had treasure and loot because we're not doing dungeons and, you know, like all of that stuff. Although I did like.
Although we've
Ken
been
was saying,
getting.
okay, how do we get, like, if we defeat a bunch of Miltech people, we're gonna get, you know, Kevlar armor and
Yeah.
like this type of gun. If we defeat a bunch of Arasaka people, we might get cool tech or what. Like, I like that a little bit.
Yeah,
that likely drops.
That brings me back to again Rifts, because they had all those different supplemental books, and it's just like, okay, you're gonna line up with the Naruni Enterprises NR75 or whatever else whenever you're in Phase World, etc. Like, it's just like, ugh. It's like I'm gonna end up having to go through. But again, like, my equipment list is not complete yet, but it is definitely on its way, because I've got like a lot of basic weapons and armor that are already in there, and I know that I can go a lot more. I mean, there's full-blown compendiums out there that are built for this kind of thing, and I'm just gonna start off with some basic run-of-the-mill stuff, and you know, again, it should be relatively easy to figure out damage principles based on what is already there.
I like the idea of a minor milestone being not generic, but like applicable across all the archetypes.
Mm-hmm.
And then a major or greater milestone being archetype specific. So,
right,
you know, a minor being you gain some like skill points or, you know, a stat boost or something like that. But then like a major is like related to powers.
Yeah, related to powers or maybe overloaded skills or all that stuff. Yep.
Yeah, you can burn off a disadvantage.
Yep. Shit like that.
That's cool. Good talk.
He's all yawning. He's
I'm glad
like,
we got that figured out.
yeah. I'm really happy to be
OneNote
in this
is
position.
changing the game.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to see some of the stuff like drafted and written accordingly, and then put into your publishing software to see how that turns out, because it's going to be so
That
awesome.
looks sweet.
Yeah, because this is just like, and obviously any pros that I've put in that I think is probably better, because like whatever you read off earlier in this whole chat when it was in reference to humans, sounded like it was pretty correct. I don't know. If
But I love what you wrote, like about humans. So Drew, you were asking about like, what if someone wants to be, a character or something like that? How do you deal with that? In the what are archetypes section in the OneNote at the very bottom,
Mm-hmm.
there's a note. Instead of coming up with entirely new mechanics, steal from others that already exist. Right?
I
Like,
love it.
You mean pay homage?
I think that your voice comes through very clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Steal from your heroes.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, anything that I've written is mostly to be filler in the book. So,
Right.
Your voice needs to be the tone of the book.
Yeah, and I have this snarky, sarcastic thing. I can't write it any other way. It's weird. It's kind of like whenever in the OneNote, it's just like, okay, let's cut to the quick. Who wants to play a garden variety human? Like, that's literally how that section starts. And I can't seem to figure out another way to do it, because I'm talking directly to the reader all the time. And I can't help but have that relationship even in my writing.
I think that's fine as long as you don't get too heavy on in-game slang or something. I mean, that's like it put me off in reading one of the Cyberpunk books, because it was like, I don't know, it was something like,
No, it's
"Hey,
gonna be-
geek, you want to be some sort of spazoid? Well, here's how you do it." And I was like, what? This took me right out of the game instead of
What?
Yeah, in this case, I'm not planning on going into like in-world euphemism and slang.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use contemporary language to do it, like I said, just talking directly to the reader and keeping it that way. Plus it'll survive a lot longer if that's the case.
Oh, totally. You want to be fleek and on point? That's how you do it. Just don't
Woo.
suddenly rewrite all the lore for your monsters in 20 years to take out
Oh
possibly
my god.
offensive
Why are you
statements.
bringing that up? What are you doing?
God,
Still burns your ass, huh?
so much. 'Cause- yeah,
You even
I
posted
know.
it on Facebook, D. I saw how mad you were.
I got a little enraged at that. I thought that was dumb. I was having moments of like First Amendment.
Like, evil gets to exist. My daughter was like, "What? You're gonna tell me that that is part of my character's backstory, is that mind flayers are basically taking over your brain and enslaving people. That is part of my character's backstory, that they escaped from a mind flayer. That is part of what makes them who they are. They are bad people. Are we supposed to hate people who enslave others, right? Please tell me that's still the thing we're supposed to do, right?" I was like, oh, my sweet little 11-year-old social justice warrior. Let the hate flow through you. Just, I get to like, if I can't punch a Nazi, who am I allowed to punch? But she was there.
But I can't handle the concept of putting up a villain that's basically a nice guy that's underrated. It's like, and then, well, I think what actually blew the trash can lid off my head was the whole, like, the new Grinch is basically a nice guy who just gets basically shit on by everybody else. I'm like, no!
He was in an orphanage, and Christmas didn't come for him because he was in an
And
orphanage.
there's a really
Now he wants
strangely
to burn down
horny
Christmas.
lady who wants his green dick.
Yeah, that's in the
That's
good
in
one.
the Jim Carrey one.
Yeah, that's in the good one. That's in the one where he's just literally a badass who tells everybody to screw off. Like, that to me makes perfect sense. That gives something of character to the story in general, but basically being more or less this, like, I don't know what, I don't even know, but just the premise that he's more or less a good guy who's just getting crapped on. I'm like, come on. It's not even a good underdog story,
Well,
really.
Like gnolls. Gnolls are created by an evil blood god that wants to destroy the world. So now they're not created by an evil blood god. I have to like be morally flexible with like hyenas now, I guess. I don't.
Goes right back to that whole thing about like offer possibility, do not restrict. Give out potentials, not hold it back. Like, and that, I guess that was kind of what I was saying too.
That's
Is
the
like,
power of shadows.
yeah, let your players
The
play
power
who they
of
want to
power
play.
of shadows.
Yeah, we're on the same page there, Drew.
Synergy.
Don't need shadows. Don't need drugs.
You need Krugs.
Not Krugs. All we got down here is zip heads, doodahs, and Zahers.
That's a deadly synergy.
What the F? Oh,
I
okay.
don't know.
All right. I see. I was captivated by the cap. It looks like some kind of like metal faceplate, and I was just like, "What the hell's wrong with that dude's
Yeah,
neck?"
no, it's the top of the hat being
Yeah.
blurred.
It's all fuzzed out, yeah.
On the tiny preview though, I thought it was like Daft Punk or something.
Deadly synergy. Yeah, it's cool that this is all kind of converging together. And like I said, it's a matter of like combining elements and having so many different things just coordinate and collaborate and self-develop and grow organically into God knows what. And I think probably from a GM standpoint, it will. Well, so much for that fucking thought. That got plunged right up Donald Duck's asshole.
Have you seen the old timey one where like the duck
bird?
is coming, the bird is coming out of the
Yes.
and he just sits down and pushes it all in. It's like, good God, they did not mess
Raise the-
around.
God, in these 2 fingers, I took care of that duck. All right, is
Oh.
Wheel of Time time?
Yeah.
It's Wheel of Time. You can do it, buddy. Go on. You know you want to.
Yeah.
Go on.
So we'll do that.
You know
I don't
you
know who
want
else
it.
is going to be rocking along, but I'll be doing that Wheel of Time watch party later on, and with everything.
What time are we gonna do that?
You're sort of ringleader on that one, Scott.
Like, now?
Do you need time, Bill?
Yeah, give me a minute.
All right. Well, of course. Oh shoot! What the heck happened here? Has this been muted the whole time? It couldn't have been. Oh, I guess you guys aren't talking. That's why it's not jumping. I'm just okay. Whew. I was freaking out because I was like, "Oh, the audio's not playing. We've been going for hours." But yeah. Yep, to our one viewer, thanks for watching. We will catch you next week. Who knows what we'll be doing next, but have a good night.